Welcome to Love of One Healing and Transformation, the podcast where we get real, raw, and maybe a little woo-woo as we explore the pathways back to love, peace, and your true self. I'm your host, Angela Bolton, a former corporate workaholic, that's right, turned spiritual seeker with a knack for finding balance between the practical and the mystical. This is your sacred space to heal, transform, and remember the love of one that lives within you. Let's get cozy, get curious, and most importantly, let's heal. Now let's dive in. Welcome back to another podcast episode of Love of One, where we discuss all things modalities of trying to heal ourselves, to find ourselves back to love of one, back to the love of ourself. And just to reiterate, all these modalities that are highlighted in these episodes are something that I have personally done myself. So I'm coming from a different perspective of knowing, understanding, and obviously just from my point of view and how I've been touched by all these different healing modalities. But when you know and have been through and experienced things, it's easier to talk about, right? And it's easier to dive in and ask the questions and be raw about it, be real, and have a good conversation. So other people have a real world experience to go off of, right? Because it's a scary world navigating your own inner journey of healing.
That can be really scary.
Yeah. So I have Michelle Niver here today, and I'm super excited. She is one of my most favorite people. I'm going to say it. She got me started on my path to healing, my serious path to healing. So thank you.
Wow. Thank you.
Yeah. She really catapulted me. From my understanding, obviously, I set up this meeting a long time ago before I incarnated, but she's definitely in my soul family of spiritual teachers. So thank you. And thank you for coming today to talk about what we're about to talk about.
I'm excited. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Yeah.
To get the word out and to reach more people about this, because light language is one of the most underused gifts we have.
Yes. And misunderstood.
Yeah, misunderstood. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't even call it a gift. It's an ability.
It's an ability.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that being said, today we're talking about all things light language.
Didn't mean to jump the gun there.
No, I love it. It was perfectly put. Yeah, so we're talking about light language. Michelle initiated my light language. I actually reached out to Michelle a few years ago she's also a psychic, and I'll let her discuss and tell you two other things that her abilities and gifts that she's brought into this incarnate. But I reached out to her because I just needed some guidance. And so I booked a psychic appointment with Michelle, and she starts doing light language. And she says, "Oh, I don't have to do a lot of light language with you because you already speak this." And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I had no idea. I didn't even hear the term light language at that moment of my life. And I was like, I don't understand, but okay. And then literally 2 days later, I went to a meditation float bath by myself. And guess what started coming out of me? Light language. My mouth, my hands, all of it. I had to be careful not to sprinkle that salt water in my eye with my hands. And I was like, because that really burns.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And then I started coming to see you for light language groups and salmon baths and all that stuff. And it just went from there. So
I love that story.
I love it too. Do you want to talk about what other things that you bring to the table before we dive into light language?
Sure. Well, light language is one thing I bring, and I do that in the form of activating other people to speak it, and also it's a healing modality that I use. I use it during sound baths, and I use it during Reiki sessions and energy medicine sessions. I do psychic readings. I do some channeling for people. I'm a grief counselor, and I'm a registered nurse health coach as well.
Yeah. And how long have you been doing this?
The light language part?
Well, all of it.
I started nursing in 1994.
Okay.
And the state of Oregon allows me to maintain my nursing license by doing energy medicine.
Wow.
That's one of the amazing things about this stuff.
That's amazing. I don't think everyone knows that.
Yeah, as long as I write a nursing care plan. I checked ahead of time to see what I could do as an independent RN, because I wanted to keep my license but not work in a traditional nursing role. So.
Oh, good for you.
Anyway, I think I might have lost track of that question.
Oh, that's okay. How long have you been doing light language or psychic abilities or channeling?
Yeah, so in 2010, I got really sick of nursing. I explored a lot of different aspects of nursing. And I had an accident in 1997, and massage really got me back on my feet. It got me off of a cane, got me off pain medication, and I decided I want to learn that. So I started doing massage on people in 2012,
Okay.
and I had this massive spiritual awakening at that time. And through many dark, quiet hours of doing massage on people, I realized I was communicating with spirits. And that didn't make any sense to me because I was, just a nurse. And
Yeah.
I grew up kind of a weird child, and I talked to spirits as a child because we were religious, but it was strange when it started to happen as an adult. And so I started really taking ownership of that in like 2016.
Uh-huh.
And I started practicing channeling in English. I would just get my recorder out and I would connect and I would
That's a
start
good way to do it.
channeling things. And one morning, January of 2017, I woke up and I went to say something to my husband and it wasn't English. And I went, what the heck just happened, right? And I was like, I know I could do that again. And so I did it again. And I was like, I don't know what this is. I have no idea what this is. But it felt so good.
Yeah.
And so I kept doing it. And that's about when it started. And there's more to it than that, but I don't want to go on a tangent.
Yeah.
I'll go back to.
Yeah, no. I saw it. I was like, woo, she's excited. So let's just go into it then. So light language, Michelle and I both do separate work, but very similar work. She's been doing it much longer. But tell me what your take is on light language and what it's all about.
Wow. Okay. So that's a lot to unpack, but I think I'll try to put it in a nutshell by starting by saying it's an ability that everyone has. It's just part of who we are. Our DNA, it's been proven by scientists at Harvard, can store an amazing amount of information on a gram of DNA, like thousands of terabytes or something, right? And so part of me thinks that we have all these languages encoded in our DNA, maybe because we've lived other lives and spoken those languages, but also we can learn language so easily as humans, yeah? And so I think that stuff's encoded in there. And I didn't know it at first, but when I started speaking it to people, a man from India came and he said, "You're speaking Hindi and Sanskrit." And I was like, no, I'm not. And he's like, "Oh, I speak both those languages and you just spoke them for the last hour." And my mind was blown.
Oh,
And that led me to think, okay, this is not just something that I channeled. This is something that's part of me. And it started making me think about it more. And I realized then, well, there were times when I was channeling energy from a guide or, a spirit friend. And that energy would come out in light language. And it was real words from different languages put together in such a way that it makes a vibration. And it changes our vibration. And so it can relieve us of stress. It can change our energy. I do energy medicine sessions. Like the stuff I learn in classes, I can move with light language.
yeah.
We can create an electromagnetic field that allows a stuck spirit to cross or to close a doorway to something negative in someone's life. So I think it's an ability we have so we can speak languages. I think it's part of who we are as a multidimensional being, and our DNA, it's encoded in our DNA. I think it's sometimes channeling from other sources, and I don't really think spirits give us words. They give us energy and it comes out, our brain makes it into something. And
Yeah.
and I've really I'm not finding that there's much limit to what we could do with it. Like,
I would agree.
it's amazing. Like,
I would agree. Yeah.
manifest with it.
Oh man. Yeah. The way I've been told in my work, I've been doing this book that's a regression book. So I'm going way back to who I am as a soul. And yeah, it's a language of us for sure. And it is in our DNA, as you said, absolutely 100%. And what's cool about it is that it can be this smattering of things, as you have said before I even started my work, is that it can be a multitude of things depending on our situation or how we're helping people, of which part of us comes out to assist in that vibration symbol of the sounds of that language.
Yeah.
So it can be languages of our past lives coming through, and it can be galactic, because if you go back to history of light language all the way back universally, it is our galactic language. And it's shown that it's really just like music, because Michelle and I both do sound. Michelle's amazing at sound baths.
How are you?
Thank you. I pay attention to every single one I go to. But it also is symbols. And that's why it's healing, because energy is all symbols, right? And vibration.
Yeah.
And it's just another form of that,
Yeah.
right?
Right. And so I failed to even say that. I mean, light language is not just about words. Sometimes it's moving energy with symbols, whether that's in the air or on paper.
Good point. Or on paper. Yeah. Yeah, that is a good point. It's not just words. And some people will only do their hands and not have words too, right?
It's
and
true.
Some will just write. So there's many forms of light language. A lot of times people say, well, what is writing? Have you ever like scribbled something and then repeatedly scribbled the same scribble?
I have notebooks of that.
Yeah, that is light language. So, because again, they're symbols. Light language is symbols. Energy are symbols. If you talk to water, which has been scientifically proven, it comes out if you flash freeze it for about 5 seconds. It also comes out in symbols of what you talked to it or what it was over.
Yeah.
It's the same concept, right?
The work of Veda Asana.
Yeah. It's a beautiful one. Yeah. It's just kind of just confirms it's all symbols.
And we can move energy with that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So in your work, let's talk about activation. So we're talking about what it is, and then it's in all of us. How do we activate it? Because Michelle's activated mine in a strange way, but the purposeful way it's supposed to be done. But how can, there's not, just like modalities, there's not one for everybody. So there's not one way for everybody to be activated. So what do you see in your work as an activator?
I actually do see one way for everyone.
You do?
Yeah, just because of I've lost count of how many people I've helped activate.
Amazing.
And this is actually one of the reasons I realized it was just innate in us to do it. The first time I tried to activate someone, Spirit just told me, do this. I was like, okay. I said, just repeat these words after me. And then when I tell you, just go ahead and just start speaking. Whatever comes out, I don't care if it's gibberish or humming, I don't care what it is, just start speaking something. You can even repeat some of the words you repeated, when we were doing the back and forth. And the first time I did it, the person just started speaking it. And I was like,
amazing. Whoa. Yeah, they were ready.
And they were like, they were like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what this is. I was like, hey, you want to try it? And they were like, okay.
Yeah.
And so then I tried it with another person and another person and another person. And then I'd hear other stories like what you told me. Like 2 days later, I was washing dishes and suddenly blah, 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 all this light language came out.
Yeah.
And so what I have found is that it takes 2 things: exposure and opening your mouth.
And a belief system?
Well, there are 3 things.
3, yeah.
3 things.
Yeah.
So the opening your mouth part is part of that belief system. Some people, when I do those groups at the office and we all speak light language together, the people who never open their mouth to do anything, it won't start for them. And that has a lot to do with fear.
So, I'll have to say yes on fear, because when I talk to other people about light language, they say, oh yeah, I speak it. And I think, oh, but they never speak it, because I find someone asked me this question once, Michelle. They asked, how do you know if someone is actually speaking light language or not? And to me, in my perception, my point of view only, people that speak light language don't just announce and don't just start speaking in light language at first. Like, they're not comfortable enough because of fear of what people might think. Yeah.
It's not what happened to me, but it's very common that way.
The people kind of hold it back a little bit until they get more comfortable with that belief and what it is.
And talking about holding it back, there's a great example of that. There was a girl there one time at one of the light language groups, and she wasn't speaking it yet. And she's in a mainstream profession, and just that's kind of foreign to her. And I remember she was just trying, and I looked over at her, and all of a sudden her face kind of squinched up, and she started crying, and she sounds kind of crazy, but she laid on the floor.
Yeah.
And she just started having these movements. Like, you could tell energy was moving through her, and she kind of sat back up and just boom, started
blurted it.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Several people who come to the group say that. They're like, I just needed to be around it.
Yeah.
And then it just wanted to come out of me.
That makes sense, because I've been through some of those. Michelle had these groups, and we would come, and we would those that just spoke it, just started speaking it. So it was kind of interesting and a little chaotic in a fun way, because everyone who could speak it, so you'd have, imagine like 5 people. So imagine there's like 7 people in the room. 5 can speak light language and 2 are trying to learn. So these other 5, and they're all a little different, and we're all like speaking all at the same time, right? And it's so, but then you would move around the room and have a conversation with somebody else, and then we'd laugh and like we don't know.
Fun.
It's really fun, and then all of a sudden, it would just all stop.
Yeah,
all
every
at once.
time. Every
Yeah,
time.
it would just like all of our higher selves were like, okay, we're done. We're done having this conversation now. Yeah, and it just lifts the vibration in that room to such a high octane
Yeah.
that I think that's what helps push those people
Yeah.
that are there to be activated. Yeah.
And it doesn't just stay in the room, it comes out. It's
Yeah.
out past the building, out past.
I think one instance of that group, there was someone there who could see, her third eye was open and she could see more beyond. And I remember her saying that she saw like all of these guides take like a big blanket and just lay it over the group. Do you remember that? And that's when we all stopped. And then she said she saw this magnetic field of love burst out into like miles around us. And that was like a aha moment for me.
Or engaging when we use light language, engaging with our true self, which is love. I mean,
It's
that's
just totally love. Yeah. And some of the feedback that I've been getting lately when I use light language, or someone says, tell me something in light language and I'll do it. And they're like, I felt that in my heart.
Yep.
And I was like, yes, it's the ultimate love connection.
Language of our soul.
Yeah. I love light language so much.
I love it too. Do you ever use it like in traffic to release stress?
Yeah. So what I've found to be true with myself in light language is anytime I'm in a situation where I feel like my vibration isn't matching where I need it to be, or I've had a negative situation, which just brings my vibration down, it'll just start coming out of me automatically.
Same here. And
it brings it up.
I've heard that from so many people.
Yeah.
Almost like you can't hold it back.
No, in fact, sometimes, Michelle, at the grocery store, when someone really upsets me, because we're all human, having this human experience, even if we're psychic or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, don't say it. Like having a conversation internally, don't say it out loud right now. The grocery store is not the place to blurt it out.
So that's funny because I'll go to the grocery store with my husband sometimes, and if I hear someone speaking in a foreign language, I can't help it. I have to start speaking my language. And my husband's like, don't do that. I'm like, you don't know what I'm speaking. I don't even know what I'm doing. It's just think it's another language.
It just wants to come out of me. Yeah. Yeah. And so I think too, on different situations, different light languages come out.
For her.
So
depending on what we need.
Yeah. Depending on what our customer needs, or client needs, or ourselves or our family.
Yeah.
Or I also find it helps me connect to the higher realms for channeling.
Absolutely.
Because it also, it raises our vibration, right? To meet that frequency, to have that conversation. What do you think about that? What is your experience with using light language to hit those higher realms for?
Same as you. That's what I use it for the most part. Is to raise my vibration. Anytime I'm not feeling like my vibration is where I want it to, I use light language in the same way, whether I'm driving, whether I'm walking around my house, whether I'm cleaning the toilet. It's just, light language will raise my vibration every single time, no matter what's going on. I'll use it. And I do a lot of heavy work with people. I can do spirit removals and exorcism type stuff. And I gotta say, I think light language is one of the things that really allows me to keep my head above water and keep moving forward through those really difficult situations.
Yeah, I would echo that too. So let's talk about using light language to rid energies or attachments, because I know you've been doing this work for a long time, and you've told me stories too where you do it in buildings too. And in 2024, I removed from a building, and I didn't even think that that's exactly what I was going to do or what. So I just was there and it just felt it and I saw it and then I cleared it and walked it out the room. And that was mind blowing to me because I was like, and the first person I thought of was like, oh, this is what Michelle's talking about.
Yeah.
And it was wild. And then
your spirit taught you how to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, but hearing you talk about doing it ignited that dormancy in myself to then say, yes. Oh, I remember. Aha. Yes.
That's why this podcast is so
Yes. Because anytime we bring light to anything, it ignites that in someone who's ready for it at that time, right?
Yeah, for sure. And people don't realize what our amazing capacity is. Like, this body compresses us in a way that, it limits us in a great way.
Yeah.
And we forget how powerful we are. But when we engage in something like light language, we can create an energy field that's very different from what's normally here in this reality. And I've been studying this scientifically, and it's really true that we actually create a different electromagnetic frequency for those stuck ghosts. And because of that frequency we're creating.
Yeah. So I've come to realize just recently I was helping a friend who had so she is she helps facilitate plant medicine ceremonies. So she sees a lot of energies come in and out, and one attached to her, and she couldn't shake it. And then she kind of saw it in a ceremony. And so she thought of me, and then we just had I said, well, I don't know what I can do, but let's see what happens. And so we got online, and then I saw it plain as day. It was attached to her fourth layer, which is light, angelic light.
In the heart.
In the heart. Yeah. And it was telling me that it attached because it was trying to find the light, because it was a stuck energy, like a ghost, right? It was a ghost who was stuck, wanted to get out, found the highest light being at the time in the place to attach itself to then find the way home.
Yeah, very
Is that
common
true?
story. Yeah, I hear that all the
Thank you. So you just made me feel like I wasn't crazy.
real.
Okay.
I when I do a removal on someone, I always ask the questions like, how did you die? Why are you attached?
Uh-huh.
Why didn't you cross over? And it's commonly that the person had a lot of light in them.
Yeah.
And they're just looking for a home.
It's like a magnet.
Yeah.
A magnet of light.
It is literally a magnet.
Yeah.
Electromagnetic.
Yeah, that's amazing. So that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
So, but I use light language. So it all went back to light language. And I find that light language is like our higher selves having a conversation with their higher selves.
Yeah. And sometimes others as well.
Yeah.
I have an interesting story if you want to hear it.
I'd love to hear it. Yeah. So would our listeners. Yeah.
So one time this kid came to the office with his mother. He's a young kid.
Yeah.
I forget how old he was, 10-ish or so. And his mom made the appointment because he was connecting with something that she called demonic, a negative entity. And it clearly that was happening when he got there. I could see that. And when we started talking and I had him talk about what was happening to him, I could see it came over him very strongly to the point he was getting scary. And he ended up on the floor. It was kind of a movie scene, but he ended up on the floor. Writhing around and just saying really hateful things. It was really strange.
That's sad too.
It was very sad. And so I was trying with light language to help him move out that vibe. I put a big singing bowl on his chest and was playing it. And finally, when it wasn't breaking, I called on a light language from Archangel Michael, and something
beautiful energy.
It was, and it sounded kind of harsh, though. It was a little different than I expected. Then I called on the Christ consciousness to come through as well. And I started speaking directly to him. And he got really quiet and he closed his eyes. And I was like, I wonder what's happening. And so I just kept speaking. And then he opened his eyes and he looked at me and smiled. And he said, I am love.
That's beautiful. Wow.
And I think that came from what I called on, basically. Yeah. That energy came through in a language that gave him information that he needed to shift out of where he was.
Yeah. Wow, that's beautiful. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. I find that when I had another friend too, same kind of situation, another one attached itself to her. It was hanging out on her right shoulder, and giving her shoulder pain.
Yeah.
And so it was physically painful. And then she just felt so I guess maybe a negative energy feeling would be, or attachment would be not yourself, maybe heavy, feeling like I'm not moving forward.
Yeah.
Physical pain, you would say?
Absolutely, because it's stuck energy and all pain.
All pain is energy.
Yeah.
And when we were talking to this, some are a little harder than others, I think, too, to get out, because I had a different light language that came out. This seemed harsh too. It seemed like, and in my mind and what I saw and heard, they were yelling at him like, it's not your place to be. And it was a masculine energy that was attached to her. And it's not his place to be. Please vacate the body, vacate the aura. I heard all this stuff. And then it was tough. They really had to like get on this case.
It's almost like when
fast.
you need the pressure washer instead of the regular hose.
Yeah. So does that happen a lot? Because you've done it way more than myself.
It doesn't happen a lot. It happens sometimes in those places that are haunted and people who were haunted.
Yeah.
But no, it's not nearly as common. I would say maybe 10% of the time at the most.
Okay. Do you ever get feedback that it's painful?
That what is painful?
Or the removal of these things?
For them?
Yeah.
Well, it may be different for an entity versus a human spirit.
This is a human spirit because I feel like a lot of times the humans don't go to these kind of modalities because of fear of pain. And so if we could address, do you ever have any feedback of the human having the experience of pain when we're doing this removal with light language or healing with light language?
No, it's always the opposite of that. About 100% of people say they feel lighter, or the person that I worked on is lighter in their nature than they were before. Because that electromagnetic field we're creating is different when we're using light language. We actually bring them into a bliss state spiritually for that crossing. And the guides will always come with, love, right? They're never going to yank them out of there in a painful way. I think that the reason they're not crossing is because they don't have the implosion capacity. Basically, they don't have the energy to do so, to, as Dan Winter says, inhabit the array of get out of the physical body. They don't have the propulsion. And you can create that with bliss, and we can create bliss frequencies with light language. But also we can create a bridge to those higher selves and basically facilitate the movement. And I don't 100% understand that. But Dan Winter is someone who actually has been studying the physics of that phenomenon, not with light language, but with bliss.
With bliss.
And I think we're doing the same thing. And so to answer your question, I don't think it's ever painful for them.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of this guy I listened to recently who was talking about a near-death experience. And he said, when he came out of his body, it was just 100% enveloped in love, just love. And so I think when the guides come and they do that, it's not a painful process. Now, when we close a doorway, so to speak, I don't really think they're doorways, but they're vibrations, but I'll call it a doorway or a portal for lack of a better term. The way that I understand that to happen is based on what one of my mentors told me she saw happening. So when I first started closing what people call negative entity portals or demonic portals, I have her watch me do some remotely, like watch what was happening. And she said, what happens is they're looking at a person and doing, their telepathy with the person. And then suddenly the person's just gone and the entity can't see the person anymore.
Interesting.
That's it. They just disappear.
It's like jumping a timeline is like happening.
It is.
Yeah.
It's a lot like that.
Yeah. Cutting the cord.
So, and I don't even think it's painful for the entities. I think the person just disappears.
Well, I think too, when we full circle back to what we originally said at the beginning, is that it's a frequency of love. And love is, love in the human form can sometimes be painful, but love, like in the frequency of the higher, is always the highest good. Yeah. And the highest good of all. So it's always this surrounding of beautiful feeling of just expansion and love and lightness and airiness. And when I use light language too on people, and if I think I've removed like 3, right? All friends that are in their practice, right? And but what I always see is my guys coming in and we do the removal with light language is kind of a little stern. And then the angelic realm comes in with their light language and the mother of the universe, which I embody, with the mothering bit, and comes in with a different light language. And then I see where they're like lifting these people back up to fill them then with the love, to fill any holes in their auras that may have been punctured.
I agree. I think that is what's happening.
Yeah. You see that too.
Yeah.
Oh, it's beautiful.
It's really healing.
I wish everybody could see that at this moment. Everyone has the capability.
Everyone does
that. It's just getting them there.
Everyone has the capacity to do this kind of work.
100%.
And the more people, I'm so glad you're doing this again, because the more people who know it will do it. And then, the world changes when.
It really comes back to when we self-love and bring love back to us by all these healings and not being afraid of it,
Yeah.
then we're opening the whole world up to love, and we're just better off for it. And then we're really healing our bodies. Like, that's what the book Love of One is about, is the whole journey of understanding who we are from a soul's perspective to what we are capable of, to then that we're not only just capable of loving ourselves in such a general way, but also loving ourselves to the point where we're healing our bodies.
Absolutely. It
on our own.
changes our DNA, what we think.
Yeah. And just because some people say, oh, well, for example, this is overused, I know it, but because it's overused, it'll be familiar, right? My dad was an alcoholic, so it's in my DNA. So now I'm an alcoholic, and I just know that gives them permission to become an alcoholic.
Yeah.
But just because it's in your DNA doesn't mean you can't shift your DNA, which you certainly can, 100%.
100%.
100%.
The science of epigenetics has proven it without a doubt.
Yeah, it's not just us saying, this is science.
Look up Bruce Lipton and the biology of belief. It explains the whole thing.
There you go. Yeah. We're just talking about it in a different way.
For sure.
Real experience.
We are doing epigenetics.
We're doing
light language.
Yeah. So we're going to take a little break.
Okay.
And then we'll come back and talk about light language and speak the light language. Michelle Niver of Sacred Awaken is a psychic medium, Reiki Master Teacher, sound therapist, and registered nurse health coach with over 30 years of experience. She seamlessly blends her medical expertise with intuitive gifts to guide you towards healing, transformation, and reconnection with your true essence. Michelle's work is centered on helping you release what no longer serves you, awaken your spiritual gifts, and align you with your highest potential. Her offerings include Reiki and energy healing, light language activations, sound therapy, grief counseling, and psychic readings, each tailored to support your unique journey. Whether you're seeking clarity, healing, or awakening, Michelle creates a safe and sacred space for profound transformation. Ready to start your journey? Visit sacredawaken.com to learn more and book your session today. Awaken your potential, transform your life, and connect with your highest self through Michelle Niver at Sacred Awaken. Michelle, I'm excited to do some intentional light language with you.
Yeah.
Just so people know what it sounds like.
Sure.
And both Michelle and I, and anyone, depending on the frequency you're trying to do, again, and what you're trying to do with it, with intention, or just yourself just doing the dishes. That happens to me a lot. Or sometimes I just start singing light language.
Singing it, too.
And then the song will seem familiar, and I'll have this flashback of me singing this song in light language as a different being on a different planet. It's kind of wild. So yeah, those are the days I check in with myself and pitch myself like, yo, we're still grounded here. Okay, we're gonna be okay. We're gonna be okay.
We've traveled to many places.
Yes, and woo-wee, pick up a lot along the way. So I don't know. Should we just start? Do you just want to try to have a conversation with us?
Was that too quick?
No.
Otoran antibari sitechos wanti kerotoraka. Mosikotorama ikitara uta ita utamastaki.
Okaya tesike. Adu kuadara tiki edamane suadara tiki adoro.
Okaya roska ikia toros ati ol amsta.
Uga ati uga varasiku advisi. Adarbekatari kuku avarasika. Igetarasika muadara yatikia.
Isi otor inta otum antika. Another being coming through. Otum dadeski halandeski talotul ha.
Katarisi ko avarasika. Hiki hadarmuku avarasika. They say they were really glad we're here doing this.
Norai kan ha ti kan ho ta hi ka ho. Hiati ha kito ha.
They were turning into channeling right now.
But yala sisakta inkanda sikaha.
They're super happy that we're bringing light to this subject.
Eduk tisira iska oto enkeres eduk.
They say, keep up the good work. And that we're spot on with the transfusion of love.
I've got the energy of Enki. Jay-Z's showing me unconditional love through this transmission for anyone who listens. And
Beautiful. She says, don't be alarmed. She says, we sound silly to you probably, but we are very excited that this is coming forth. And so we're giggling over the excitement of it.
So they're including a transmission for all who listen at any time that is listening. This is actually an activation as well for anyone who listens.
I figured that was the case. I have goosebumps all over.
Yeah, I feel really high.
Yeah, you look like it. We are sober. You're sober. And I'm feeling it very vibrational in this small little recording studio right now.
Yeah. The room is full.
Yes, the room is very full. In fact, my ears are getting really full. Do you want to continue that activation?
I'm loving the bliss. Yeah.
Yeah, let's do.
Okay.
Hakikisikitia dua terikikiana.
Dorte ila irtia ila uch ata.
Ikiki adara sua kiki adara isi adara kwa.
Naita skuta ha. Into ishun amchum.
Ichi atarisiki sikua traya kiara sikitara bili kuatra siki Loria.
Yeah, it's showing the energy circulating through those of us and those who are listening. Kitala, ikitala, rosa, isa, dutara, ichwantika.
Yeah. Kiatara siwadare. Kiatara kiakatara yasia huala yatarea. Wata kia darabatikua raisitu.
Titishu ship, actually ship.
Tatulisukokat.
Sion tikira antaiki anto ha naiki ha ita ha.
Kia taramasi ki anto kia daratu anta siatia
Dana ikiana sotoka.
Yeah, tatulisikotare. So good for all you know editor. Yeah. Well, that was clear. Yeah.
I think we just got reunited in some way.
Yeah, I feel that.
I do too.
Yeah. Tatulisikuadarieti.
Dakurasika disquadakita uchnan ita ushnan ki.
We have been doing big work and we have more to go.
Yeah, the great work. Itan ishan utan ita at the perfect time where the realm is going to open and things will change and we will see things in a way that we have never seen them, I believe, even in my lifetime.
Yeah. Beauty.
Yeah.
And prosperity and freedom.
Yeah.
True freedom. Freedom of your soul.
Knowing who you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is really the ultimate goal here is at Earth School is really to come learn your lessons, but to find out who you ultimately are as a soul. In my work, they want me to talk about it for a little bit.
Yeah, go ahead.
In my work, they come through that your soul is your soul. So like in perspective, Michelle is Michelle in this earth at this time. And Michelle from baby Michelle to mid-age Michelle to Michelle now to Michelle much older until Michelle is no longer here. You are Michelle. Your soul is the same thing, but your soul is just much bigger. So you are the egg. Your soul is the egg yolk in your egg white body. Because the yolk represents love and light, and we are light bodies squeezing into this yolk shell with this shell that's very uncomfortable. And when we find out who we ultimately are as that yolk, that's when we graduate, and that's freedom.
It becomes way more comfortable.
We don't feel like, ooh.
This is the first time I've ever been comfortable in my life, and it's since about 2016.
Yeah. Oh, that makes sense because, just my personal experience too. I'm finally settling into who I found out I am.
Yeah.
And it's a lot to take on as a human perspective because we are so told otherwise since the day we go to school, right? You do this, do that, sit down, listen, praise the Lord, hallelujah, pledge allegiance to the flag, all these things. And it's really just taking out who we really truly are.
It needs to
our
all
soul.
be there, right?
That
Because
all
we're
be
here and we're there. It needs to all be
heaven,
there, right?
yeah, as above, so below.
Yeah.
Yeah,
For
yeah,
sure. I would like to see it change in that way.
yeah. We're moving there.
We are. And we have the Waldorf schools. It's
Yeah, that's
better
true.
than
Yeah,
mainstream schooling.
yeah,
Yeah.
we do. So, the light language. When we just went through that transmission,
Mm.
and we were feeling what we were feeling.
Mm.
Do you think that everybody that speaks light language initially or eventually knows what they're saying or doing? Because it is true that sometimes it's just a symbol just to get you to your vibration,
Yeah.
but sometimes it's not.
Yeah. No, I don't think everybody will always know. And I don't think you need to know. I think it just depends on what you're trying to do. So, like, I get impressions like you do. I get impressions and images, and I can translate it sometimes.
Yeah.
But it's really about the vibrational part of it. And so some people will never put that intention into it. They just want to use it for the healing properties that it has
That's true.
on themselves and the world. So, no, not everybody will. In fact, I don't think most people will understand what they're saying. And again, I don't really think it matters unless you're trying to translate it. You have that's what you're trying to do as your objective, because it's a vibrational language.
Yeah.
First and foremost.
Do you think people, how do I say this? Some people receive it, some people don't. Some people are awkward about receiving it. Is there any tips or things you can say to people that are listening to that if they've, like, our transmission was probably very foreign to a lot of listeners, how should they receive that? And does their body feel affected for a amount of time after they received a transmission?
Okay, so I was going to ask you what you meant by uncomfortable about receiving it. If they allow it in, then yes, their body will feel it for a period of time. And I think it kind of corresponds with what I learned in sound is the vibrations keep moving for about 3 days.
Yeah.
So because it is sound.
It sounds, yeah.
And so what was the other part of your question?
Is there anything that they could do, like aftercare?
Yeah.
Once they received it?
Well, I'd say even before aftercare would be pre-care.
Yeah.
That this is not from the devil. This is not.
Yeah, we should.
This is from, either our higher selves or source or, what we call a higher dimensional guide. So letting go of fear around that, letting go of fear around what you're going to sound like, letting go of fear of whether or not it's going to be real. Because if you're interested in doing this, it's already because you know you can.
That's a good point. Your belief system's already there.
Yeah.
It's waking up.
And so for the energies to assimilate better afterwards, I'm not sure if I think I might have gone off stray there.
It's okay.
Water. The more water you drink for those 3 days, the more the energy will move because it takes water to conduct energy. And so we want.
They're water beings.
Yeah, we are water beings. We're 2/3 water. And our DNA would fall apart without water. So we need water. And we need to conduct energy. Quieting your mind, just, asking your guides and your higher self to show you what you needed to know around what that transmission did for you and do some meditation around it. But I would just say water and try not to go to, any really stressful, super stressful situations today if you can help it after you've listened to it. But if you can, use with intention to bring that in to power you up to go walk through Costco today.
Yeah.
And the more
intention,
the more you listen to it, the more familiar it's going to become. I would say the people listening to this podcast, you're probably not going to have a lot of uncomfortable people with it. You're probably going to have more intrigued people
who knows,
have a memory of it.
Yeah.
I don't know who you're.
We're just creating a library of all different options because there's not one recipe for everybody. So, whatever resonates with them will resonate, and whatever unlocks dormant DNA will unlock dormant DNA, just like reading a book.
Yeah.
That ignites the aha moment. Maybe one of these episodes of one of these or 2 or 10 of these modalities will resonate in that same aha moment way.
Yeah, that's why this is so important.
Yeah. And when I went down my healing journey, thanks for you again to catapult it, I didn't find a lot of resources.
No.
And I know that there's more coming online, but there weren't, even for like plant medicine or even float baths, something as simple as floating in, magnesium salt for an hour in the dark. There wasn't a lot of, so a lot of people I find, and this is just my perspective, of course, but an opinion, but I find a lot of people aren't doing these things because They don't know. And we are so based on fear
Absolutely.
in this world. And if we can get over our fears, then we can start diving into these things without hesitation.
Knowledge and letting go of fear.
And knowledge is a huge part of letting go of that fear, right?
That's why you're doing this. Yeah. If you understand what light language is, it's way less scary. You know, if you know that this is just a part of who you are and it's in your DNA, and you know, your higher self and your soul speaks that way, then what's there to fear?
Yeah.
Other than what people may think of you, but don't do it in front of people if you don't want to.
Yeah. Well, that's part of moving through our healing too, right? As a human is surrendering to the fear and what other people think, right? Stepping into our self-worth and our self-confidence. And
that was hard for me.
It's hard for all of us, I feel.
Yeah. It's the biggest challenge probably for us.
It's a big challenge.
Word out.
Yeah. And just allowing that to be available for someone is key.
It's a really big act of service to be able to push through that fear and invite these kinds of modalities in.
Yeah, it's self-love.
And when you love yourself, then that vibration you emit out changes the world around you. And that's contagious. Heart math proved that.
Yes, that's true. It's totally contagious.
Yes.
And it also opens our aura to feel to even brighter and brighter.
Yeah, and bigger and bigger.
And what does that mean? That means that everyone you stand by in that proximity also reacts to that vibration, which just spreads the love even further, which is what I really love.
Yeah, I love it too.
I love that. And I just think of this rainbow, and this just keeps moving and moving and moving and hitting more people and hitting more people and more pots of gold and more pots of gold, right?
It's a ripple effect.
Yeah, I love it.
And we are magic, every single one of us.
So magical.
Yeah.
Is there anything you think that our listeners would benefit from knowing more about light language? Is there any books or any other resources out there?
I know Jamie Price wrote a book.
Jamie Price.
I haven't read it, but I like Jamie Price, and I think she knows what she's talking about.
Yeah.
I think it's Jayme. Yeah, Price. She's got a YouTube channel, and I don't recall the name of her book right now.
It was nice to have it. I think it's Activating Light Language or something like that. And then she has a tarot deck too, or an oracle deck.
I didn't know.
It's really beautiful. Yeah, it's a lot of cards. It's very hard to hold it in your hand. Yeah, it's beautiful.
I don't know have you heard of Lori Ladd?
I have not.
She's a light language practitioner as well. She's pretty popular. I don't know if she's just got videos or she's got a book. I'm not sure, but her name comes to mind as well.
Okay.
And then I wrote an article on light language.
You did.
On the website.
Michelle has a website and a blog. And all of her contact information. Do you want to talk about how they can contact you?
Whenever you're ready.
We can do it now. Yeah.
Sure. I wasn't trying to plug it.
Oh, yeah. No. Sacred Awaken, right?
SacredAwaken.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then there you can find all the different healing modalities that Michelle offers and see which one resonates with you. You have book time with the beautiful Michelle.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Super talented, super beautiful soul. Seriously, anytime I'm feeling down about myself, I go to Michelle.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really do. Yeah, you've really helped me, and I just want to take this time to say thank you with so much gratitude for who you are, what you bring, and just, it's such a beautiful soul with so much to offer anyone who crosses your path. So
thank you for coming and for trusting me, and I just finally feel like I'm living my true purpose.
You look great. You look like you've anchored it.
I think I'm going backwards with aging all of a sudden. It's something wonderful is happening. Yeah, like a good. Oh yeah, good. Okay. I was like, my hair turning brown all of a sudden. Thank you so much. Thanks for coming to me. Thanks for trusting me. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, of course.
My mission is just to reach as many people as I can so the world gets better.
That's all we want, really, right?
For everyone to feel empowered and love. Yeah.
And love. Yeah. Thank you again. I'm sure we'll have a follow-up because there's so much more to talk about with you.
I love that.
So I hope to see you again on Love of One podcast.
Me too. So, thank you.
Thank you so much, Michelle.
Thank you, Angie.
Of course, it's you. Well, that's a wrap on today's episode of Love of One, Healing and Transformation. Thank you for being here, for showing up for yourself, and for remembering the love and peace that is already within you. If you enjoyed today's conversation, hit that follow button, share it with your soul fam, or leave a review. Seriously, it's like a big spiritual hug. Until next time, remember, the journey to yourself is the journey home. You've got this. I'll see you next week, same time, same vibe.